Welcome in, lovers. You're in the Embodied Liberation Lounge. I'm your host, Lola Darling. Let's vibe. Hi friends, welcome back to another solo episode on the Embodied Liberation Lounge. And I just can't really talk enough about integration and building a relationship with the self, like an intimate, all-encompassing relationship with the self. And here's why. All of healing actually really just comes down to building better relationships with ourselves, with all of the different parts of us. And then what results from building these relationships is integration, bringing all of the different parts of us into a space of the integrated self, of wholeness, of the whole self in our original essence. So I want you to take a moment and just, you can journal or even just like drop in and ask yourself, like, who would you be if you were living in your original essence, like the original essence of your soul? That is wholeness, that is integration, and that is really what healing's all about. And it's about building better relationships with all parts. The body mind is like wholly and fully alive. Like there's so much aliveness in our bodies. Like it's so extremely intelligent. It has so much information. It's holding so much wisdom. It's also holding like all of these like old emotions and wounds and traumas and all of this information from the life that we've lived, and ancestral information and bloodline stuff and past lives. The body's holding all of it in the energetic body and the emotional body and in your physical body. Like it's stored in the tissues and the cells and the musculature, like in the bones. And all of it has its own voice. All of the parts of us have sort of their own personality that comes out. A lot of the parts of the body mind have been installed or instilled with this role that we give them at various ages, right? Or they get stuck in time at various traumas or experiences or points in our growth or points in our conditioning, or even like points in the familial system and like conditioning, right? We get parts of self that get stuck, which is, and so then it's like about building a relationship with them and nurturing them with the love that they maybe didn't get, or whatever it is that the part has arisen from, right? Like in psychology, they call this work IFS, but it's also somatic embodiment. It's somatic work. It's energy work. It's also alignment work, embodiment work. Like it's really all of it. It is all of healing. All of healing is about building better relationships with the parts of ourselves. Because when we have these relationships built with ourselves, we become more intimate with them, for one, but we also then can notice like when something is out of alignment, when a part of us is acting out and begging for attention because it needs something from us in order to come back into our wholeness, right? To come back into being integrated with us. And just so you know, like this isn't work that you like start out on and then one day you're just like done and complete. The work of building relationships with yourself, the work of healing, the work of integration and wholeness is a never-ending journey. So stop looking for it to end. Stop seeking the end. Stop seeking to be done. And just allow yourself to enjoy the freaking ride, because it's really what this life is all about. Like we came here for this finite time on earth in these meat suits, right? These bodies that host and are a home and a temple for our soul and for all of these parts of self and emotions that actually are all here to give us information for soul growth, to evolve our consciousness, so that when we leave this realm and go back into the source energy from which we came, we can repopulate it with new consciousness, with the evolution that we came here to receive by working through all of this stuff here on earth, through our bodies, through our body minds, through building better relationships with ourselves. The quickest way to start building better relationships with yourself is to start connecting with, I say, pick 3 parts of you that you know you can connect with and start connecting with them sensationally and start to understand and navigate and learn the way that your body speaks to you, the way your body mind speaks to you, the way that these parts speak to you. Now, different parts might communicate with you in different ways, but there's always going to be like a main way that they sort of come through for you. So I just invite you to take some time, sit in meditation, sit in solitude, and quiet your mind and drop in. First, drop into your heart. It can be really helpful to put your hands on your heart so that you can direct your consciousness of like where you're going, and just start trying to have a conversation with your heart simply just by asking, how are you feeling today? And wait for the response. And here's the thing, the response needs to come from your body. So wait until you feel a sensation. Maybe you'll see a symbol. Maybe you'll start to feel some emotion bubbling up, or you might get direct dialogue. You might start getting visions and visuals. You might just have a knowing, but it's got to come from the body. The mind is going to want to interject. And here's where we can get really tripped up with this work and take ourselves on sort of like a chaotic shadow spiral, or even get like stuck in these like sort of shadow portals when we start listening to the mind and the mind starts speaking for these parts that we're trying to connect with. And then it actually just like makes us more dissociated from these parts rather than building a relationship from it, because then the relationship is only coming from the mind, and that's not where it's meant to come from. It's meant to come from like the original essence of who you are, from like the you behind the screen of you, right? Like the observer, the one that's watching and observing all of these parts sort of play out within you. Like that's who needs to be listening. That's who needs to be hearing what the heart has to say. And the mind's going to want to interject because that's what the mind does. So something really fun that I like to do is like just grab at my third eye with my hand and be like, okay, mind, we're just going to like set you outside the room. It's safe for you to be there. I'm just going to set you out there for now. Like I'll pick you back up when I'm done. And that can be really helpful for just like allowing yourself to drop in and be able to actually listen and hear what your body mind is saying, so that you can start building relationships with these different parts of yourself. And I start with the heart because the heart is sort of its own vortex. Like it's super potent and powerful and like has its own massive frequency that it's exerting all of the time. And we can really connect to love through our heart and connect to everything through the heart. And the heart is also the bridge to the rest of our body. Like it's the bridge from our mind and from spirit and from our intuition and the upper level chakras. Like the heart is the bridge to the body. So starting with building a relationship to your heart is going to be the most powerful thing. And it's going to be the most powerful relationship you might build, because it's actually going to open up space for you to be able to connect to and understand how the rest of the fully alive body mind wants to communicate with you. Even if they're communicating in different styles, then like you still sort of are like working out this muscle of learning to listen, and not only learning to listen, but like of cultivating a relationship, right? Like with these different parts of self, and also with yourself, like how you care for and nurture yourself. As you're learning to nurture these parts of yourself, like that's where the integration comes in, when you get to like bring it all on board to the authentic you that is the observer standing behind all of these parts, watching them have their voices and their traumas and their protections and their safety mechanisms and their walls and their love portals and the inner child, right? Like all of that gets to come online into the integrated whole, but it can't do that. Any part is unable to come into the integrated whole if it's still acting out and trying to get your attention. And this may happen by like reactionary mechanisms that we have, or walls we're putting up, right? Or intense like feelings and emotions that like cloud over us or hang over us, or pockets in the field of different mind loops and negative thought patterns that we get stuck in. Like, this is all ways that different parts of the body mind that are trying to protect us or keep us safe are acting out to get our attention. And so it's really about learning when someone inside of us is acting out so that we can drop in, have a conversation with it like we would with our best friend or somebody else that was acting out in around us, right? That like needed some attention, and just building a relationship with it. And once we start to build better relationships, it creates a more calmness in the nervous system. The nervous system is able to relax a little bit, and these parts of self get to see you, the you that you are now, not necessarily the you that you were, that this part maybe thinks you still are from when it was created. Like maybe it's a 7-year-old, right? Or your 4-year-old inner child, whoever it may be, that's like stuck from this trauma pattern, and she gets to see, oh, who am I now? Like, oh, I'm a 35-year-old woman doing the damn thing, and I got you. You can trust me. But these parts of self aren't going to just trust you like that. You got to build the relationship, just like trust with anyone. If you give just anyone blind trust, it's not necessarily about like earning trust. It's about cultivating a relationship of trust. So how do I know I can trust you? Oh, because I'm continuing to show up and nurture you and give you the attention when you're asking. Like, I'm allowing space for you to exist and have a voice. And I'm nurturing you, right? Like, or I'm holding space for you to be nurtured, or I'm giving you boundaries. Like, some of these parts just need boundaries, right? Or they need to be given different roles and different ways of being or different belief systems. And that only comes when they can actually trust you to carry them through that. Trust you to help them rewire and recode the conditioning that made them stuck wherever they're stuck in the first place, right? And it really is all about having the conversations, continuing to have the conversations, building relationships. We don't just build a relationship in an hour. We build relationships over time. And the same goes for the parts of self, and even for the core of ourself and new identities that we're creating and all of the parts of ourselves and our hearts. Like, it's about continuing to show up for the relationship as a whole, and for all of the parts of the relationship that are still needing attention and needing, some love and an extra little tap on the ass to shift direction or to shift belief or to shift a role, to come into the integrated whole and be able to live on board and online with who I am being from my original essence, from the wholeness, from my authentic truth, rather than from wherever they're stuck at in the age range that they may be stuck at, or even if it's coming from a past life self or, past life energy or an ancestral energy or bloodline energy. Like, those are all stuck parts. And that's how we transmute, is by building these relationships and getting them on board with us, to trust where we're going and that we got them, right? Like, that we can take care of them. So that's what I've got for you today. It's loaded, it's deep, and it's so full of truth. Like, all of healing is about building better relationships with ourselves so that we can stand in a more integrated self, whole self, wholeness way of being. This is integration. This is healing. And it's the journey of a lifetime. So thank you for listening. Please share with somebody that really just like you desire for them to drop in and tap in and build a relationship with their heart, if nothing else, so that they can open up the communication to the rest of their bodies. And maybe that's you. And I invite you, please, please, please join me in this practice. It's so powerful, and it can actually really change your life so quickly. And on that note, I actually have just a little like digital download course. It's actually chock full of 7 practices. So you can, I like to do it in a week so that you're like stacking and reiterating, right? You're like building that relationship and you're like showing up for it every day for 7 days. It's called the Heart Vortex. It's $47. It's part of a bigger course. So if you're interested in the bigger course, that's available too. But really, there's like workbooks and 7 practices and transmissions, like, and embodiment practices. Like if you are looking to start this work, to start building better relationships with yourself, like it really all starts with building a relationship with your heart first. That is the door. It's the portal to the rest of our body minds. It's the bridge. So I invite you into that. I'll link it in the show notes. And if you're not already, please follow this podcast so that you can get all of my new episodes delivered to you first. And yes, please. Thank you. Thanks for joining me. And I'll see you next time in the Embodied Liberation Lounge.